Hello, all my aviation friends and family. Welcome back to another video. Thank you very much for watching. Today, we're going to be talking about aviation safety. Now, the last time I did a video on safety, it turned out to be very popular. It was called Too Many Low-Time Pilots Die Every Year and How Not to Be One of Them. Generated around 130,000 views. So I thought, well, man, I should probably give another video to y'all on safety. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Specifically, 7 tips that I think are absolutely critical to keeping you and your family and your passengers safe while you're up there in the friendly skies. So if that sounds good to you, let's dive right in. If you're new to my channel, let me start off by introducing myself. Hello, my name is Trent. I am the #1 fastest pilot to go from private pilot to a job offer from a regional airline in just under 15 months. And I spent less than $50,000 on flight school in the process. If you'd like to learn more about that, just stick around to the end of the video and I'm going to give you more details on how you can replicate my success. So aviation safety issue #1 is loss of control in flight. So generally speaking, this involves stalls and spins, particularly during takeoff and landing and maybe maneuvers at low altitudes. And this is the leading cause of fatal general aviation accidents. So how do you mitigate this? Well, maintaining proficiency in slow flight and stall recovery and adhering to correct airspeeds for your aircraft and avoiding excessively steep maneuvers or aggressive turns when you're low to the ground is a very good start. For practicality, what I encourage you to do is each time you're flying from point A to point B, rather than just sitting up there chatting away, practice a maneuver or two along the way. Do a little slow flight, do a power off stall, do a power on stall. Make sure that you keep your skills sharp. #2 on the list is controlled flight into terrain, or CFIT as it's known. So this occurs, generally speaking, when a properly functioning aircraft is unintentionally flown into a mountain or the ground or the water. And this, generally speaking, is the result of the pilot becoming disoriented or losing situational awareness, oftentimes or most oftentimes in low visibility situations. So how do you avoid this? Well, good route planning in your pre-flight, making sure that you have great terrain awareness, putting tools in your cockpit like ForeFlight or a glass like a Garmin 750 or some other form of glass that shows terrain in red or yellow colors can help you a great deal. As well, if you're going to an airport that you've never been to before, you can pre-fly that segment of the flight using Microsoft Flight Simulator in VFR conditions so that you actually have a very good idea of what the lay of the land is on your approach to that particular airport or through the mountain pass or whatever segment of your flight might have you in a situation where CFIT could occur. #3 on the list, to no great surprise, is fuel mismanagement. So this is generally the result of poor pre-flight planning or failing to monitor your fuel usage in flight or incorrect switching of fuel between your tanks. And this can be caused sometimes by confusion over how much fuel you have on board and how much more you need to go and so forth. So how I encourage that you avoid this, obviously, is make sure you've got a good pre-flight planning session done. Make sure that you're carrying adequate reserves. Make sure that you are monitoring fuel consumption during each segment of your flight, and that's something that ForeFlight is very good at helping you to do. And then finally, one of my old tricks is to make sure that I set my iWatch for 30 minutes on a timer, and it vibrates every 30 minutes, and that's how I make sure that I don't forget to switch back and forth between the left and the right tank. #4 on the list is weather-related accidents. So this includes flight into IMC, encountering icing, thunderstorms, or other adverse weather events. Oftentimes, these situations occur because of poor go or no-go decisions made by pilots while they're still on the ground because they're underestimating the weather risks. So #1 is make sure that you stay, how do you avoid this? You stay within your personal minimums. Make sure you stay within legal minimums, of course. Make sure you have a sound backup or diversion plan that you've already rehearsed and you understand. And then if you're in the training phase of your flight, one of my favorite little tricks that I would always do is on the outbound leg when I was on a time building flight, if there was any adverse weather around me that I was worried about, on the outbound leg, I'd actually fly, typically in my case, west towards that weather. Now, I might not get to the airport that I was hoping to get to if that weather got worse than I expected, but then I could just turn around and fly east and beat that weather back to my home airport. So make sure that you keep that in mind. And also, the final thing is, wherever you're going, if you're planning on coming back to your home airport that day, make sure that you're keeping a close eye on what's going on with the weather back at your home airport, because that way you can avoid putting yourself in a situation where you're homebound with a little bit of get there-itis, and that can put you in harm's way quicker than you might like. Number 5 is mechanical or maintenance issues. So these are going to be less frequent than pilot-related causes, but nonetheless, mechanical failures, particularly in around the engine and critical systems, can lead to forced landings and or loss of control. So proper maintenance and timely inspections, like checking your oil every single time you're on the ground before you go up in the air, thorough pre-flight checks, all of these things are going to help you to reduce the chance of in-flight failures. So, and I want to tell you a story here of something that nearly happened to me, and it's something that you can catch in your pre-flight. So in my case, I was a flight student. I was pretty green, and I was doing my walk around, and there was I was flying a plane, a DA-40 with a variable pitch propeller. And so there was these little splotches on the cowl right by the spinner. And because I was looking at something as opposed to looking for something, in a passing glance, I just thought it was bug guts. And then when my instructor came out, he did his own walk around, and he drew my attention to what was actually oil spots on the cowling. And it turned out that the variable pitch prop had a little bit of an issue, and it was leaking some oil. Now, would it have failed that day? Maybe, maybe not. But I didn't need to find out, and thanks Fabio for pointing that out, my instructor at the time, because that was a rookie mistake that yours truly made. So when you're doing your walk around, the takeaway here is, don't be just looking at stuff. Be looking for things that have gone wrong and can put you in harm's way. Number 6 is faulty takeoff and landing techniques. So this involves things like runway incursions, hard landings, short or soft field takeoff, landing errors, and improper crosswind corrections. So oftentimes this stuff is influenced by a lack of currency, or maybe some complacency, or a misjudged approach path that would then lead to an unstabilized approach. So how do you avoid this stuff? Well, practice, number 1, both in the real aircraft and in a simulator, along with proper adherence to the published approach procedures. And finally, don't be afraid to go around. There's no need to be the hero, because you can always go around and take a second shot at that approach if you find that you become unstabilized. Same thing for takeoff. Guess what? There's no such thing as an emergency takeoff, so don't make bad decisions on the ground that are going to put you in harm's way when you're in the air. And finally, number 7, we have poor aeronautical decision making, or ADM as it's called, and human factors. So earlier I mentioned something called get there-itis. It's one of the hazardous attitudes. Fatigue, stress, or complacency also contribute significantly to accidents. This area includes failing to abort a flight or turn back when conditions deteriorate, that's get there-itis. Continuing a flight with known mechanical issues, also get there-itis, or perhaps some invulnerability, oh, it won't happen to me, or maybe even pushing your personal limits. So how do you avoid this stuff? Make sure that you understand how to manage your risks, and that you understand how to assess your risks, that you're using checklists, and that you have a very healthy respect or your own personal limitations. If you do that, you'll go a long way to keeping yourself out of harm's way. All right, at the beginning of the video, I promised to share with you a little bit more about how you could potentially replicate my accelerated journey to receiving that job offer. So I produced something called the Guide to Accelerated Flight Training. It goes into immense detail on how I was able to get 7 ratings in 90 days, how I did it so inexpensively, and as well some very critical questions that you need to ask your instructor and or your flight school to understand if the training environment that you're going to put yourself in is going to be one that is or isn't conducive to you being able to train and fly more often. So if you'd like to learn more about that, just click the link down in the description below. And finally, if you've enjoyed this video and you think other pilots should see it, please do go ahead and click that like button. If you have questions, leave those for me down below. I do read and reply to every single comment. And lastly, if you'd like to see further videos by me, you can either do one of two things, actually. You can subscribe here on YouTube, or you can visit the flywithtrent.com website, where you can join the email list, and then you'll get an email every single time that I put out a new long-form video like this one. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video soon. Take care. Bye.